Welcome to 15-Minute Battles, where we demolish history's biggest conflicts in just 15 minutes. We dive deep into the world's most pivotal military clashes, from the ancient battlefields of Marathon to the complex strategies of modern warfare. The leaders, who were the legendary generals and forgotten heroes commanding the troops, and finally, the outcomes. If you love history, military strategy, and learning something new quickly, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another historic clash.
History is filled with battles that changed the world, but few are as consequential, yet as overlooked as the Battle of Ipsus. This wasn't just a clash of armies. It was the final bloody death blow to the dream of a unified empire forged by Alexander the Great. In 301 BCE, on a dusty plain in what is now modern-day Turkey, the fate of the known world hung in the balance. This is the story of ambition, a fatal mistake, and a wall of elephants that sealed the destiny of 3 continents. Picture this. It's been over 20 years since Alexander the Great died. His immense empire, stretching from Greece to India, didn't pass to a single heir. Instead, it became the ultimate prize for his most ruthless and powerful generals, known as the Daedoshi, or the successors. For 2 decades, they had been locked in a brutal, sprawling conflict, the Wars of the Successors. Brother fought brother, friend fought friend, and the world Alexander had conquered was torn to shreds. By 301 BCE, one man stood on the verge of claiming it all: Antigonus Monophthalmus, Antigonus the One-Eyed. At over 80 years old, he was the last of Alexander's own generation of commanders, a battle-hardened veteran who possessed an unyielding ambition to reunite the entire empire under his personal rule. He was powerful, he was respected, and he was feared. His dream was to be the new Alexander. But the other successors weren't about to let that happen. They saw Antigonus not as a unifier, but as a tyrant who would consume them all. And so, they formed a grand coalition to stop him once and for all. This alliance brought together some of the most powerful men in the world. There was Lysimachus, ruler of Thrace, a tough and resilient general. And most importantly, there was Seleucus I Nicator, the victor, who had carved out a massive kingdom for himself in the east, stretching all the way to India. These men, along with others, knew that Ipsus was their last stand. If they failed here, Antigonus's dream would become their nightmare. The stage was set for one of the largest and most decisive battles of the ancient world. Let's look at the forces arrayed on the field. On one side, Antigonus and his brilliant, dashing son, Demetrius Poliorcetes Demetrius, the besieger of cities. Together, they commanded a colossal army of about 70,000 infantry and 10,000 cavalry. They were confident, their troops were loyal, and they had a small contingent of 75 war elephants. It was the largest single army assembled since the days of Alexander himself. On the other side, the coalition forces. They had roughly the same number of infantry, but their cavalry was slightly superior. And they had a secret weapon, a game changer that would prove to be utterly decisive. Seleucus had just returned from his campaigns in the east, and he brought with him a gift from the Indian subcontinent: war elephants. Not just a few, but a staggering 400, some sources even say 500, of these ancient tanks. An armored, trumpeting, and terrifying wall of flesh and fury that no Macedonian army had ever faced on this scale. This was the coalition's Elephant Edge. Both armies deployed in the classic Macedonian fashion that had conquered the Persian Empire. The heart of the army was the phalanx, a dense formation of soldiers wielding massive, 18-foot-long spears called sarissas. This wall of spears was nearly impenetrable from the front. On the flanks, they placed their cavalry, the hammer designed to smash the enemy, while the phalanx anvil held them in place. For Antigonus, the plan was simple and aggressive. His son, Demetrius, commanded the heavy cavalry on the right flank, the traditional position of honor and the main striking force. His job was to charge, break the enemy's cavalry, and then swing around to crush the enemy phalanx from the rear. Antigonus himself, despite his advanced age, took his position in the center with his infantry, ready to command the main line. The coalition mirrored this setup. Lysimachus's cavalry faced the fearsome charge of Demetrius, a young up-and-coming king named Pyrrhus of Epirus, who would later become a famous enemy of Rome, fought on their side. And Seleucus, with his horde of elephants, held them in reserve, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash them. The battle began with a thunderous roar as Demetrius led his elite heavy cavalry in a devastating charge. He was one of the finest cavalry commanders of his age, and his attack was ferocious. He smashed into the opposing cavalry led by Lysimachus, and just as planned, he shattered their formation. The coalition's left flank broke and fled, with Demetrius and his cavalry in hot pursuit. The first phase of the battle was a stunning success for the Antigonids. The enemy flank was routed. Victory seemed within their grasp. But this is where the tide of history turned. This is the moment of Demetrius's fatal mistake. Flushed with victory and the thrill of the chase, Demetrius made a critical error born of youthful impetuosity. Instead of reining in his cavalry and turning back to attack the now exposed flank of the coalition as infantry, he kept going. He pursued the fleeing enemy far across the plain, hungry to annihilate them completely. He was winning his part of the battle, but in doing so, he was losing the war. By taking himself and his elite cavalry out of the main fight, he left his father's infantry phalanx completely vulnerable. The hammer that was meant to crush the enemy was now miles away. While Demetrius was chasing ghosts, the titanic struggle between the two main infantry phalanxes had begun. Tens of thousands of men clashed in a brutal, grinding fight, a pushing match of shields and a forest of deadly spears. Neither side could gain a clear advantage, but the Antigonid phalanx was now in grave danger. Its left flank, which Demetrius was supposed to be protecting, was completely exposed. The coalition commanders, particularly the wily Seleucus, saw their golden opportunity. This was the moment they had been waiting for. With Demetrius and his cavalry stranded far away, Seleucus made his move. He didn't use his elephants to charge the Antigonid phalanx directly. That would have been risky, as elephants could sometimes panic and trample their own troops. Instead, he did something far more clever, something strategically brilliant. He deployed his 400 war elephants in a long, solid line, right between Demetrius's cavalry and the main battlefield. He created a living, breathing, terrifying wall, an impenetrable barricade of giant beasts that Demetrius and his horsemen could not break through. The path back to the battle was completely blocked. Demetrius and his entire cavalry force were instantly neutralized, trapped, and forced to watch the rest of the battle unfold from a distance, helpless. Imagine the psychological impact on the Antigonid soldiers in the center. They're locked in a desperate struggle, and they look over their shoulders, expecting to see Demetrius's victorious cavalry crashing into the enemy's rear. But instead, they see nothing. Their flank is exposed, and in the distance, they see a giant wall of elephants blocking their comrades' return. The morale of the Antigonid army began to crumble. Panic and despair set in. Veteran Macedonian soldiers, seeing their best cavalry cut off and facing the combined assault of the coalition forces, began to waver. Many, realizing the battle was lost, started to defect, throwing down their weapons and deserting to the other side. An army that had seemed invincible just an hour earlier was now melting away. And what of the old king, Antigonus? The 81-year-old warrior stood his ground in the center of the chaos, refusing to retreat. He couldn't believe his son wouldn't return. According to the historian Plutarch, as his men fled around him, he kept shouting, "They will come. Demetrius will come and save us." He stood firm, a solitary figure of defiance, waiting for a rescue that would never arrive. But there was no rescue. As his army disintegrated, the old king was caught in a volley of javelins and arrows. He fell, and with him died the dream of a united empire. With Antigonus dead and his army shattered, the battle was over. The coalition had won a crushing and decisive victory. Demetrius, seeing his father fall and the battle lost, managed to gather what was left of his cavalry and escape. He would live to fight another day and even become king of Macedon for a time. But his father's grand ambition was buried forever on the plains of Ipsus. The aftermath of the Battle of Ipsus reshaped the world. It was the final nail in the coffin for the idea of a single, unified empire. The victors Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Ptolemy, the ruler of Egypt who had wisely sat out the battle, but shared in the spoils, carved up Antigonus as vast territories among themselves. This division solidified the creation of the great Hellenistic kingdoms that would dominate the Eastern Mediterranean and the Near East for the next 2 centuries. The Seleucid Empire, based in Syria and Persia, the Ptolemaic Kingdom in Egypt, and the Antigonid dynasty, which would eventually reclaim the throne of Macedon. These powerful, competing states, each with its own unique blend of Greek and local culture, became the new reality. The dream of Alexander was replaced by the legacy of his successors, a fractured but vibrant Hellenistic world. The Battle of Ipsus didn't just end a war. It drew the map for the next chapter of ancient history, setting the stage for the eventual rise of Rome. A single, impetuous cavalry charge and a wall of elephants had changed the course of civilization forever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient history, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories of the pivotal battles and epic moments that shaped our world.
And that wraps up today's 15-minute battle. If you want to master more moments of military history in less time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next 15-minute battle.